Hey everybody, hopefully this mic is working. We're going to do a quick video here showing how to put the wrap on this knife blade that we napped. And I was looking at this. I could have took another flake in right here, but it's fine. Got a little bit of a high ridge and I could have ran that right there, but it's fine. We're going to wrap that, and we're going to wrap the handle to about here. So it would set in your hand about like that. And anyways, let's get going there. I pre-cut some parts here so that we can run through this a little faster, but I'll show you the different steps. So we got our blade, and we're going to wrap the handle first. So first thing, we're going to use some of this fiber cordage here, and we're going to cut a piece about like this. It's however long it is, doesn't matter, just as long as it's got enough for you to get a hold of. And then on this blade here, now I've dulled this down so it's not cutting our twine, but we're going to pull this tail around like that, and then we're just going to start wrapping it up over itself. When we do this, we're going to try and keep the cordage as tight as we can get it. And all we're going to do is just keep on wrapping it. Got a lot of fuzzies on it, but we're going to take care of that. If you missed the first part of this, go back and watch the first part. The first part, in part one, we napped this blade from a biface. Definitely takes a minute to wrap it. You could wrap this with whatever you wanted, sinew, or wrap it with leather. It don't matter. Whatever you want on your project, that's what you should wrap it with. But for this one, I like the looks of this natural cordage when they're done. In this episode, we're going to just wrap this handle, and then we're going to build the sheath, which I've already got parts cut, but I will show you the different steps of all that. Just a simple, basic as you can get leather sheath. And I'm not going to punch holes with bone or any of the rest of that stuff. We're using modern tools here. I mean, you could most certainly do it that way, all authentic, like you. Of course, I don't know if we really know exactly how they did it, but my guess would be they used a bone awl or something like that when they were punching holes in their leather stuff. When you get to this point, then, which I maybe should have already done it, but you throw your loop around like this and then just start wrapping over the loop. Back it up a little bit here. We're getting towards the end, so you want at least 3 or 4 good wraps over your pigtail there. I suppose the more the better, but anyways. That's far enough up on it. Cut this, then hopefully we don't break our cord, because that does happen sometimes. I don't wrap these end ones quite as tight as I do the rest of them, because I want to be able to pull that up underneath there like that. All right, we have our wrap. It's a little bit loose down here on the end. We're gonna push it down, but no, I don't really like that much. All right, probably came a little too far down on the end. I started wrapping around the corner, so didn't get quite as tight as I would have liked it. Now it's going to have some glue, and we're going to use just some white glue, but you can use hide glue or whatever you want to use. Hopefully I'm staying in frame here. Okay, that's tighter, that's better. So we're going to take a lighter. All these little fuzzies on there, I like to get rid of those, or at least the majority of them. And there was another neck knife video where we used some wrap, not on the whole handle like this, just a different style. It had an antler handle. So anyways, yeah, we just burn off all these little fuzzies, and we'll go to the next step. I like to, you could leave this just like that, and that wraps us on there and make that more comfortable like that, and that is actually really comfortable on your hands. So if you wanted to use this, you could absolutely use it, but I like to darken this some. So that's what we're going to do. I'm at my tooling bench. I normally would never have die within anywhere near this bench, but I'll just try to be careful and not knock it over or do anything stupid, which is you can use a wood die or any of that you want, or stain, I mean, but I just got some leather stain here, so that's what I'm going to use. I buy this stuff by the gallon, so it may not seem like a lot when you're dyeing a house or staying in the house, dye in the house. When you're staying in the house, it may not seem like a lot, but when you're just doing leather projects, it's quite a bit. This particular dye is a walnut dye. You don't even have to cover the whole thing. You could leave some spots that are undone if you wanted. They're darker in some spots than others, or however you want to do it. However you see it in your head is the best way to do it. Put your own artistic flair on it. Okay, let's get this over here and out of the way so nothing can happen. Okay, I'm going to pause you for just a minute and so I can let this dry, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, it's not completely 100% dry, but I've already made the pattern for this, but I'll show you how I did that, and it is just super down and dirty easy. But simply trace around your piece. Don't have to be super tight to it. In fact, you don't want to make it too tight. Just trace around it. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me try and darken the line. So that's our basic shape of the blade, and then we're just going to guesstimate about 3/8 of an inch on either side, and that's going to allow for the thickness of the blade, which is blade is super thin, relatively thin anyways, but you got to have room to do we're going to do a whip stitch type lacing on here. So once you have your outline pattern, I like to fold it over to make sure I'm even, but this one's definitely not. But anyways, you can just trim this off, even up your sides, and that will true your pattern up. And then you just have to decide how deep you want it, which that one right there is actually pretty good, where would work just fine. But let's see how close it is. Yeah, they're just about the same, a little bit different, and that little bit isn't going to make any difference at all. So so you got your pattern, and then you're going to cut your pieces. And this piece here is cut there. It was uneven cut. I like to use some sort of uneven type cut for the front piece. Usually I'll use a factory edge from the tannery. I didn't use that on this one, but it's fine. So we already have our pieces cut, but I'll show you how I had marked those. This here is it's a bison leather. I use a lot of this in the shop, but you just lay your pattern over your piece, and this particular you can mark it on the back side and use an ink pen and cut it that way, or I got these silver marking pens, and I just trace around it, and then use your leather shears, or you can use a regular old razor knife or X-Acto knife, whatever you want to use to cut your pattern out. Okay, So we're going to do something else so that it can be drying while we work on our sheath. We got some wood glue here. This dries clear. For the most part, you could use Elmer's. You could use hide glue. Uh, whatever you want to use. But this is going to ensure that our handle material stays, wrap's going to stay exactly where it is, and it helps waterproof it some. So you just want to work that down in there real good, and when this dries, it ain't going nowhere. You'll still be able to cut it off if you ever want to cut it off and replace it or something. If you were using it and I don't know, something happened, you want to replace it for some reason, you of course can cut it off. But anyways, just a thin layer, but you want it work down into it. So that every one of those fibers is bound together permanently. Try not to get it on your blade. Okay, now we can set our blade aside. So the next step we need to do is and you could do this without gluing it, but we are going to glue it. Let me go grab my glue because I didn't bring it over here. All right, I'm back with the glue, and this is just contact cement. Same thing I use in the leather shop every day. And this, you don't have to do this. You could just lace it, but when this dries, it'll never come apart ever. You won't be able to get this back apart without destroying it. So, and there's no welt in this sheath. The lacing we're using is a heavy leather lace and this glue, and that really helps from. If it was a steel blade and you're putting this in and out of there, the point would you'd work your way through the end of this. But between the heavy lacing and this glue, it's good to go. I mean, you could use it out in the field, and it would be just fine. Now, I'm sure the natives didn't have contact cement, of course, but we're doing a modern rendition of it. So, all right, so we're going to let that dry, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and somehow or another, I think I'm going to have to tie this on to the other video because I think it started over again, but mic's still green, so this isn't tacked up as much as I would let it, but anytime you're using contact cement, you really want to let it tack up, and it's tacky, but normally I'd let it tack a little longer than this, but it's fine. You don't want to put it together wet. And we're just gonna, it's a smooth faced cobbler's hammer, and just gonna tap that. flush up the edges. Don't have to be perfect. Now, if this was something in the leather shop that I was normally making, then yeah, I would make it perfect. But not for this particular project. I don't want it to be perfect. Only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to step over to the bench, and I am going to put a little bit of that same dye we used around the outside wraps along this edge, just to darken it up, so that when it's underneath the lace, it's got that dark edge underneath there, so the part that you see doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. So I'll be right back. You guys, I'll go get it and show you. Okay, so this is actually a dauber that has some dye still on it from our project I was just working on over there, but just a regular old wool dauber. And we're just going to put that on there just like that. Okay, good enough. All right, so this is going to be the front of our sheath, and the only thing we're going to do here is, this is a slotted punch, and I'm going to use it. You could use sharpened screwdriver, anything you got at home, and we're just going to put some holes in it. We're going to come in, 1/4 inch roundabouts, and we're just going to pre-cut our holes for our lace. This also does not need to be perfect, not on this project. There's no need for it. That one's a little bit wider than those. I don't know where my little narrower slotted punch is, but just a little bit wider. It won't matter because the lace is actually bigger than this slot is a little bit, so I don't really do any double loop lace or some whip stitch lacing in the shop. When I am lacing, it's usually a double loop laced edge, but go down there one more. We want to piece this heavy lace down here in the bottom so that that's bumping up against that, because like I said, we don't have a welt. So. Now where our neck piece, I should already punch these, but where our neck piece goes through, there's going to be, I'm going to punch two 7/32 holes. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I kind of had this kind of figured out in my head, and we were doing it. Now it's so that's our 2 holes, and those are going to wobble out because we're going to use some even heavier lace to go through there. But we'll have to put a little bit of that dye right there also to cover that edge up some. Just lightly dab it there. Okay. All right, so here's our lace, and we're going to use, this is a 5/32 lace. This lace is pre-cut. You could cut your own lace or cut it out of some rawhide or whatever you want to do. But let's see if you can see this here. But this is a lacing needle. You can see those 2 little barbs on there, and that's what holds the holds the lace in place. They're not very big, and these needles do wear out. And I'm pretty sure you can get these lacy needles. Any leather supply is going to have them, and also I think Hobby Lobby probably carries them, but I'm not sure. I don't buy leather stuff from Hobby Lobby, but now this lace is going to vary on how thick this is, but I cut this 4 times the length of the distance around, and we're going to come in. This is your backside. We're going to come in from the backside, and actually, I need to because these are not big enough for this particular lace. And they're not, because when I'm doing lace, normally double loop lacing and stuff, the lace is really thin. Now I pulled that and the needle came off. I may need to actually get a different needle. And when I'm doing, so the lace has got a smooth side and it's got a rough side, and I want the rough side out. So that's what we're going to do. And you can turn the lace in there so that when it comes around, that rough side's going to be out. And we may need to recut this in because I done pulled that completely out. Once it pulls out once, then it's kind of doesn't want to hold after that. So I skived that down a little bit to thin it out some. And this is a safety skiver. If you're hobbyist, you may not have that, or not really a leather worker, but you could use a razor knife. Just lay the piece here and on the edge of something, use a razor knife and strip that off. And a lot of times I'll do that if my skiver's not right there at arm's reach. Okay, back to it. Now I'm just going to do a couple of these, and then show you how it goes, and then I'll turn the camera off. I'll run around it real quick, and then show you how to finish it on the other end, because it's just gonna be a repeat of the same thing over and over and over again, and you just don't want to watch that. There's no reason to. So our tail is more or less around the back side, and then you're just going to come back over it. This would be more convenient if I didn't have to wobble these out, but and you want to make sure you don't have a twist in your lace, and you don't want to over tighten it either. So you're just going to keep coming over this tail, so because that's what's going to lock that tail in so that it can't come back out. But just around and around and around until you get to the other side. And this doesn't really take that long. It's just run around it. Okay, so we're past our tail, but you can get an idea of how that's looking there, and just keep running around it. And I'm gonna run all the way around. When I get it back up here, then I'll turn it back on and show you how to end it. Okay, we're at the final end. We've gone around it. Just got 3 more holes to go here, and Just going to run around them all the way to the end. Now we'll do the last one. I can get it to go through there. There we go. All right, so the next thing you're going to do to finish this is I run my stylus tool here underneath the laces to kind of open them up a little bit. And then you just run your needle through. And it's coming kind of through to the back side so that all this is hidden on the back side. You don't want these super tight on this part. I mean, you have to leave them, you want them tight, but you got to leave them a little bit loose so you can still get your thread back or your lace back through there. And then just snip it off. And, okay. Next thing I do, you can leave it like that, but next thing I do is I'll come in here and I like to tap these down with my smooth face hammer just a little bit. Now we're going to put our neck piece on, and this is quarter inch lace. We're just going to run it through one of those holes in the back. When we do this, we're going to cross them over. You want this to be adjustable, so you just cross them over like this, and then you wrap this one around, come back, and then through, and tighten that down. So just coming over it, so they're just crossed over. You come underneath, back around, and through your hole. That just ties a couple of knots that will slide so that you can adjust it to whatever length that you want. So you can slide these like this and shorten this whole thing up however you want it. Let me go grab our knife. I've got it in the hot box drying. Okay, so our glue's dried. That's never going anywhere. And there's our blade right there, and it is very comfortable in the hand. And that's what she looks like when she's in the sheath, just like that. That's what she looks like out. So that's it, our little neck knife, little mahogany obsidian neck knife with the sheath. I can just hang around your neck, and there you have it. Only other thing they'll probably do is I might put I'll take a piece of this and cut a piece of deer antler and maybe hang something off of it. If I do that, it'll be in a thumbnail, but we'll end it at that. And y'all hit that like and subscribe button. I hope you got something out of this. I tried to shorten this last part up, but I think you got the gist of everything that you need to know to finish making this into a neck knife. So, all right, y'all hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.